Hello, my name is Timur, and today we would like to talk about our journey in building microapps for Citrix workspaces. We will be talking about some of the tips and tricks, challenges that we faced, as well as provide a demo of building one or more screens of our microapps. First, let's talk about Upwork and our motivation for building the microapps. Upwork is the largest marketplace for businesses and freelancers to connect with each other and perform work. Some of the key features include, for example, ability for clients to browse different talent on our platform. Let's say we want to search for a PHP developer. We can see the results here and we can browse through the results, select people that we decide that we want to hire based on different criteria such as work history, availability, maybe their different certificates and verifications. And on the same page, users are able to either invite or hire those freelancers. On the other side, freelancers also can search for jobs. I don't know, if I'm looking for a PHP job, I can view a list of available postings, view the feedback of certain these clients, whether their payment methods is verified, information about jobs, and so on and so forth. Now, the problem that we are trying to solve is the fact that for clients, you need to actually use our website to view your hirings or your postings. And that is, we want to allow our clients to be able to use their Citrix workspace as a one-stop shop for their many different actions. Of course, we wouldn't be able to provide the full functionality of a website, but there are some things that we want them to be able to do on the go, right where they have any other apps that they work with. For example, we can provide them with the possibility to view their jobs or the proposals that users applied with to those jobs, or for example, post a job right away from a Citrix interface. In this example, we can select different categories. We can specify whether we are looking to hire a freelancer agency, whether it would be a fixed price job or hourly job, and some other information. Now, this allows for easier engagement with the talent that people are hiring, easier job postings, and management of their jobs. Now, let's talk about some of the tips and tricks that we learned while working on our microapps. First of all, planning. We need to make sure to plan ahead a lot of things. The way you will divide your microapp in smaller actions, the way you will build your data model, the way you will approach building your microapp. For example, in our case, in our Upwork integration, we have two microapps. First one called My Jobs and Proposals, and second one is called Posted Jobs. In certain cases, you might want to have even smaller microapps. In some cases, you might want to have a little bit more complicated microapps. But generally, I would personally recommend to keep it simple so that users, when they are interacting with your microapp, can just perform one or two actions and have things done with them. Now, regarding the data structure, the way you would structure your data model and your synchronization calls is very important, because that literally affects the way your pages will look like, the way your data is structured, the way you interact with your data, and sometimes it could be far from straightforward. For example, let's go into our data loading settings. For our microapps, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 calls, and one number of them are actually related to each other. For example, in this case, we have parent-to-child relationships between 4 different calls. That also means that we need to plan our tables accordingly. We have number of tables. For each table, there is different data points corresponding or load settings. And this is very important to make sure that is planned ahead, because when you're building your pages, you would not be able to update your data model that much. Basically, if you already build your page and you want to now update the way you load your data or you model your data in tables, well, you would have to redo a lot of work. Second thing that I would highly recommend is doing backups. You can see that we had number of different iterations of our integration, and that is because we wanted to keep our development separate to make sure that we do not break the integration that we already have, and make sure we are keeping something as a backup. It also allowed us to parallelize work for different developers to separately work on different integrations, although I have to say that it also meant that at the end we had to merge all the different integrations together, which took some time to do, but I think it's in the end worth it. Now, one last but not least important thing is to make sure you plan your synchronization appropriately. You need to make sure that you're not flooding your APIs with requests. We definitely had situations where we looked at the API request logs and we saw that we did rate limit ourselves. For that, you need to make sure that the data amount that you're requesting, pagination specifically, is adequate for the rate limits that you have on your APIs, and that wouldn't be detrimental for performance or stability of your APIs. In the next section, my colleague Abhiroop will walk you through building a microapp.
Hi, so in this session we'll see that how we have developed the microapps that works on Citrix platform and can load data from Upwork and can display list of jobs posted by a user, and then can display the details of each job. In the real production thing that we have developed, that can do much more things, like can display list of proposals, list of profiles that is send the proposals, and can cancel a job, so on and so forth. But for this session we'll be only seeing that how we can configure a microapp that loads different jobs from the Upwork platform, and also can display the details of each jobs that posted by the user. So now let's start with that. So first we'll create an integration point which will define the basic integration property that we need to define to communicate with the Upwork platform. So to start with, let's create that. So it will be a kind of it will be communicated to a HTTP web server. So we'll select this option and click continue. So here is the basic configuration screen. So we'll start with probably giving it a name. So let's give a name like Upwork Citrix microapp, and then next comes the base URL. Now this base URL is needs to be defined for all endpoints that we'll be using for loading data from the Upwork platform. So how this will work is, after this basic configuration is done on this integration thing, we need to define different endpoints which will return the required data for different entities like jobs, job details, etc. So all endpoints will be based on these base URL that are defined here. Let's set an icon here. So set an icon. Now next comes the authentication part. So the endpoints that we'll be using to communicate with the Upwork platform requires some authentication mechanism, and we'll be choosing OAuth 2 for this. And here comes the next configurations. The grant type will be here client credentials, because this will be a machine-to-machine communication. So how this will work is, in the Citrix microapp, there some routine will be running in predefined frequency, and those will call these endpoints that we'll be defining and load data to the local cache table. So for that we don't need any human interaction to provide credentials and all, like password. So we'll be using client credentials, which will create generate tokens and use that to get data from here. So we need to provide the token URL that to be used by this routine to get the required OAuth token from Upwork platform. So here we provide, sorry, this is not the correct one. We'll provide this token URL for that. Okay, so this is the token URL that will be used to get fresh token from for loading data, and then we need to provide the client ID and client secret that we need to pass for getting a OAuth token for the authentication thing. Now these are the kind of basic setup that you need to do for defining an integration point. We can probably add it at this point of time, but I would like to point one thing, that we should also define the request rate limit, otherwise it can create uncontrolled request and can create problem to the target environment. So for this case, let's define something around 35 requests per minute, which is optimal for the target environment that you are trying to communicate to. So we are done for this integration definition, and let's add this. With this we should have one integration ready. Yes, so we have one integration configured for us. Now we need to define different endpoints that actually load the data that we are interested in to work with. So let's start with that. Let's define an endpoint. Let's give it as a name. We'll maybe call it a GraphQL Job. It's basically a GraphQL request which loads the basic job information for the job posted by the user, and actual endpoint will look like this. So after the base endpoint, base URL, we need to append this one as for the GraphQL part, and it should be of type post, and it also requires a few parameters to be set as part of header and body. So let's define that. So this is how it looks like when you define the parameter for this, and then we need to define it for the body as well, because the GraphQL requires the query to be sent as a part of the body of the request. So this is how the body part looks like. We send the query as part of a parameter named query, and this is the actual query string that we send to load different fields from the job. Now let's test that endpoint that we have configured, and it returns 200. So looks like we have configured it correctly. The next step is to generate some tables from the endpoints. So let's try that. Click generate table, fetch JSON structure from the API. So you can see that the API returns us data in this format, and We need to set the root path because the response model defines a metadata in the top, which we don't need for this case. So we'll define the root path here from which we'd like to capture the data, and we click on generate tables, which creates a table for us, but it doesn't set in a primary key. We need to set it manually. So let's go to the detail part, and for this case we'll be setting this legacy ciphertext as a primary key. So save it, and once we add this, so we have our one endpoint ready, which returns us the list of jobs with some basic information. Now while it works for the basic information of job, but we need some detailed information of the job to display to the user. So for that we need to configure a child API which will be called for each job that we loaded here, and return us the detail of each job that is present here. So let's add a child API. So the parent table is the GQL job which we created just now, and let's give this a name. So maybe call it something like API job details, and the endpoint will look like this. So for this case we will be calling this endpoint, which will return the details of each job when the job key is to be passed to the path parameter as defined in this format. So for that we need to define this path parameter. So let's add that. So we define the name as job key. The type is string. The value what we want is to be replaced for each call from the parent table record. So instead of static value, we'll choose as a column value, and the column from which we want to take the value is a legacy ciphertext, and then we choose a sample value here. So now we are done with this endpoint as well. Let's test how it behaves. So we have got a 200, which means that this is configured correctly, and we can expect that data will be loaded from this endpoint. So now for this endpoint also, let us generate the tables so that we can display data from here. So let's load JSON from structure. Now because we are using this as a child API, we have different options to merge. For this case we'll choose this option, merge as detail, so that we can show the detail from the same table. And for the root path of this, for this structure, we'll be using the job node, and we'll create generate table. So we have got our table, which if you go inside, we'll see that a lot of fields got populated now, whereas compared to the first one which loads very basic information. Now for this table also we need to set the primary key. So for this case we'll choose this legacy ciphertext. Set it, save, and add. So now we have two endpoints, one for loading the master job records, and second is the detail of each job that we loaded in the first API call. With these data now we should be able to display them on page and create some navigation for the user. But before that, let's see the list of tables that we have populated by using these endpoints. So these are these two tables. These are the master table what we are referring to. These are the fields that in the master table, and this is the detail table which loads many other information for each job that we load in the master call. So now we are done with our data endpoints, which means that we have successfully imported data from the target platform, and we can use this data to display on the page that we want to. So for that, now we first need to define a microapp which will contain the pages that you want to show to the user. So as of now, you have defined only the endpoints and the integration points which will help us to load the data, but now we will be defining our microapps which will actually contain the pages and the controls that you want to use to show our data. So let's click on add microapp. So we have got a blank microapp. Let's configure it. Go to edit and go to pages, and let's add a page. So the first page you want to define here is which will display the list of jobs in a tabular format. So let's give it a name, maybe say job list, which will be of type table, and we'll select the table from which you want to load data, which is the detailed table. We can select fields here as well as later on when we design the detail part of the page. We'll do that in that phase. So let's click add. So now we have a table populated in this page, but it doesn't show any data because we haven't mapped any column for this table with the target underlying data source. First, let us give a name to this. So maybe something like job list, and define columns. So we'll start with maybe adding like so the time when the job is posted, create a time, and then we can add like title of the job, which should be somewhere below here. Okay, title of the job, and then the category. Probably that we'd like to add. So select category. Okay. So now we have some data here. Now, if you see that first of like the date time is not like represents an integer, we can change the format here to show a more meaningful value. So go to the create time, change set format. Sorry, not this one. So we call it data's time, and we got a more meaningful value here. So with this configuration, you can see that the list of jobs is displayed in this control. And if you go to this preview page link, let's get loaded. So you can see that how it will be look like in the real usage mode. You can also go to a full screen view for a more, so it's more space on your screen, and you can also maybe see how it looks like on a handheld device like mobile. So we have configured one page which displays the list of jobs on the Upwork platform. Now one thing is that it displays all the jobs on the platform, but what we want to show here is the list of jobs that posted by the current user only. So for that we'll be adding a filter here which is called personalize. So what we'll do is we'll add one condition which will say that the email of the creator of this job should be equal to the user email, that is user who is using this page. So if you save this, so now you see there's only one record is displayed because this is the only job that I have created with my account. So it is now filtered by the user who is actually using this page. So with this we are done with this page which displays the list of jobs from the Upwork platform. Now let us create another page which will show the details of each job from here. So we'll go to pages again, create add page, give it a name, and this time we'll choose a layout of type detail because we'll be showing some detailed information on a particular record. We'll select the same table here. Fields again you can select later on. So with this configuration we'll just add this. Now we have a page but it doesn't have any control. Let's add some control and define our page and add fields that we want to show here. So maybe we can give it some heading here. So let's call it job details page and set the type as header, maybe some line divider for some look and feel, and now we'll add different fields that we want to display here. So we'll add different text controls. So we want to show title, and it will be data source of this field will be some column value. So this is our table, and we want to set title here. So you see the title of the job now. Let's add some more fields. Say description. Similar way, we'll choose the description field, and we can show some information related to like category, let's add a field for subcategory, okay, maybe some more detail like visibility of the job. So this way we can add all the fields that we have populated in this table. So we can create this page more informative and add more fields to show more information about a particular job. Well, let us add a back button here, so that once we navigate to this page from the list of job page, we can again navigate back to the list of job page. We can also do a page preview here to see how it looks like on the runtime. This is how it looks like. Maybe you can check the mobile device view. Now one thing you want to do is that from this job list page, we want to navigate to the detail page for each job that we display here. So we'll try to add a navigation way that will allow us to navigate to this detail page from this master page. So what we'll do is we'll go to this action for this table, and in this section you can say that go to this job details page, and with that we'll have a view details link here. So now from here we can go to this job details page from a particular job listed here. Now if we go to this preview microapp thing, what we will see is that there is no actions available because we haven't configured any of our pages which will be using as an action for this action point for this microapp. So let's do that. So go to properties and enable as action, and we'll list our job list page for the action. We save it. Now if we go to this preview microapp link and go to the action, we'll see that the microapp is available here. We click here and the job list page gets opened, and we see the jobs that we have created. And if you click this view details link, it will show the details of that particular job that we clicked on, and then you can just go back to this list page again. So with this we have a microapp with two pages. One shows a list of jobs posted by the current user, and from there we can navigate to a page which shows the details of that particular job that we are interested in. Now if you check this, sorry, so it says that this is not subscribed. What does it mean is that we cannot allow anybody to subscribe. It doesn't allow anybody to subscribe to this microapp and use it. So we need to add users to whom we want to allow to subscribe to this one. So for that, we just go to this subscriptions and search for user. So I'll probably subscribe to myself. Okay. Oh. Takes some time. Okay. Now, so this is subscribed, and here also you can see that this is subscribed. That means that a user, in this case, if I log into the workspace with my user ID, I can see this microapp, and I can use this for displaying jobs and see the details. So that's all for this session, guys. Thanks.